Welcome everyone. With those sounds, feel free to storm a village, but beware, docile doom, for we are listening to Conan the Barbarian. This is the original Conan the Barbarian. There he is right there. Let's flip it onto the back. Some fantasy artwork. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Back to the front. This image here might look a little bit familiar. A lot of people have used that style. It's basically a knockoff of Star Wars, but in this case we got Conan raising his sword in the air with the warrior maiden kneeling before him. In the Star Wars poster he had Luke Skywalker raising his lightsaber with Princess Leia knelt down before him. A lot of people copied that image. Army of Darkness did for their poster. Sometimes it was parodied, as in the case with one of the National Lampoon family movies, which had Chevy Chase, I believe, raising a tennis racket in the air. But as far as the music, well, you just heard a little excerpt from it. Just very loud, bombastic orchestra score. It does have some more subtle strains in it, as that music tends to. I remember first seeing this movie when I was a kid, loved it then. Still enjoy the movie quite a bit. It's a very solid score. Let's slide on down to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Steven Spielberg, John Williams again. They've collaborated many times, including Jaws. John Williams came back for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This opens up. We have an image of the mothership there, with all the scientists and other people gathered underneath and before it. Onto the back, we have some still images, which basically look like lobby cards. Liner notes. Of course, the most famous thing about this score is those 5 simple little notes that dun 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 dun. Sorry, I'm a bit tone deaf, so that probably didn't sound all that great. But another neat thing about this is it does have a full LP inside here, but it also comes with this 45. You basically get a condensed version of the theme, as you can see there, theme from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So this came with it. Pull it out beforehand so you guys can have a look at it. There's Close Encounters. We slide down to Phantom of the Paradise. On the back we basically have the song titles with all the lyrics. Phantom of the Paradise, of course, movie-wise, is a bit of a knockoff of Phantom of the Opera. It stars William Finley and Jessica Harper. But also, this little smiling mad face is Paul Williams, musician, singer-songwriter. I wrote the song It's Just an Old-Fashioned Love Song, which became a big hit for Three Dog Night. I also wrote the song Hell of It, which is on this album. It's my favorite song off the album. This movie came out early mid-70s, around the same time Rocky Horror did. A lot of people kind of compare it to it, being a rock musical and all. And speaking of rock, let's go to Rock and Roll High School, featuring the Ramones. The back. Hopefully this comes in good. There's a picture of the Ramones themselves. I think this movie came out around 1979, 1980. Obviously it features various songs from the Ramones, but there's other artists on here as well. Alice Cooper, Todd Rundgren, Chuck Berry, Brownsville Station, Devo, PJ Soles. She sings lead vocals on a version of Rock and Roll High School that's used on here. The Ramones version is also on here, kick-starting the album. This movie stars PJ Soles, who was in Carrie, and the original Halloween. Paul Bartel and Mary Warrenov are in this movie. Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brothers, in this film. And it also stars a giant white mouse. And if you don't know what that means, feel free to watch the movie. This did spawn a sequel, Rock and Roll Forever, which came out probably almost 10 years later. It had Corey Feldman in the lead. Ramones are in the movie, do a little acting if you want to call it that, and then they do a pretty good song medley. If you're into punk and Ramones, you're already familiar with this. But a nice little soundtrack, pretty happy I got it. Let's go down something a little more lighthearted. Back to the Beach. Why do I have this album? No good reason other than when I saw it, it amused me seeing it sitting there. Someone had to buy it. That someone was myself. Scenes from the movie. Actually right there, Stevie Ray Vaughan and Dick Dale, they do a version of Pipeline, which you use on the soundtrack, and you can see both of these guys. It's right at the end of the movie, they're together on stage. Pee Wee Herman doing the Surfing Bird, Frankie Annette. I remember watching this movie first time in the late 80s. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I wasn't familiar with the original Beach Party movies from the early to mid 60s. Basically AIP, American International Pictures, just spent about 2 weeks making these cheap little films, and then Frankie and Annette would go hit the road for about 2 months promoting them. They were quite popular, and there was other companies trying to do their own beach party movies. But Frankie having on that Funicello, right there from the king and queen of beach party movies. And that was, of course, everybody's favorite Mouseketeer, Frankie Avalon, and the probably later 50s, maybe early 60s, a bit of a teenage crooner. Popular with the high school girls, basically. Unfortunately, Annette Funicello just died, I believe, last month. She suffered for a very long time from MS, multiple sclerosis, which actually was affecting her at the time of this film. She wasn't diagnosed with it. She didn't know she had it yet, but she started noticing something wrong. It was diagnosed shortly thereafter and just continued to deteriorate for the past couple decades. But instead of remembering that sad thing, you can watch this movie and have a lot of fun. Especially if you're a fan of 80s stuff. This might thrill you a little bit. Or if you're a fan of the beach party movies, you need to watch Back to the Beach as well. Enough of that. Battlestar Galactica, the original Battlestar. Of course, it was a TV show, but I did get a soundtrack release. Back jacket, more artwork, the Cylons. This movie did have a very long pilot episode, and it was released theatrically. They edited the pilot a bit, but they released it in theaters in Canada and parts of Europe. And in some parts of Europe, it actually made more money than Star Wars did, which just came out like a couple years before this. And Fox, they actually sued Universal when Battlestar Galactica came out, stating there was about 27 different things that they stole from Star Wars to make Battlestar Galactica, and then Universal, who owned Battlestar Galactica, they countersued saying that people made Star Wars, stole stuff from their movies such as Silent Running and Buck Rogers. But rather worry about that, just listen to the music. Maybe you remember kind of a cheesy show back in the day, but this actually got a pretty good solid score, good themes. That little there, I forgot what they call it, it's basically a robotic type dog, pet. Actually put a little suit on the chimp, and it ran around the set. I've actually seen the suit they use. It's in a museum in Seattle. You can see it. That's how I found out a chimp was used. But that is Battlestar Galactica. Also right there you might notice that the Vipers do bear resemblance to X-Wing fighters. They just don't have the X-Wings. But at any rate, I actually have these kind of out of order. I should show the next one first, but anyways. Exorcist 2, The Heretic. Sorry, trying to avoid my reflection there. Linda Blair on the cover. I don't think there's much to the back. As far as the music on here, music composed and conducted by Ennio Morricone, an Italian musician, writer, best known for his spaghetti westerns. Did the score for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But he has scored tons, many movies. And he does actually I do like the score. There's some songs on here I like a lot. Reagan's themes, not too bad. Pazuzu, theme from Exorcist 2. So, even though this movie was a massive flop when it came out, here's a little tip for your folks. If you have a massively successful film such as The Exorcist, when you go to do the sequel, don't hire a director who openly said he hated the first movie. Because he probably tried to do something vastly different with the second movie, and that's what happened. From what I heard, this movie was literally laughed out of theaters. After a couple of weeks, they yanked prints, and then they recut it, re-released it, pulled it again, recut it. So I don't know what version's on home video nowadays, but alright, the score's not too bad. There's a couple decent themes on here I do like. And now we'll take us to what we should have started with to begin with. Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. Kind of a prog rock actually. But Tubular Bells was used as sort of the main theme for The Exorcist. William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist, was looking for different music. At one point he did have some guy come in there and conduct some music with an orchestra, and he even played a little bit for William Friedkin. But after he finished, the conductor turned around and said, "What do you think?" William Friedkin stood up, said, "Well, you're not using that in my movie," and then walked out. So he searched for other stuff, and there was a little bit in here. Tubular Bells, he didn't think it was scary. He thought it had like a childish lullaby type thing, and that would make a good theme for Linda Blair's character. But no one wanted this album, actually, and the people who picked it up was Virgin Records. Richard Branson, who co-founded that. And this was their first release. Then they got attached to The Exorcist and sold millions of copies. And that helped launch Virgin Records. The full theme of this, some of you might only heard a couple of minutes, the full theme lasts the entire album side. And likewise, you flip to side B, which most people haven't heard. It's a full-length, 22-minute long song. Instrumentals, some odd vocal work on the second side, which sound like goblin grunts to me. Alright, this video went a little bit longer than I was planning on to. I'll give you a quick look at what's on the going to be in the next video. Not really soundtracks. Let's pull them over here so you can see a couple of them. The old Disney haunted house, Famous Monsters Speak, little radio show stuff with Lights Out and Arch Obler. And this will finish off part 3. So part 3 should hopefully be nice and quick for you guys. Alright, once again, this is part 2 of my series, so hopefully you guys will come back for part 3, and thank you for watching this.
What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.